Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Paris Talks Marketing. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Lalit Shinde. Lalit serves as the Chief Revenue Officer at Sequretek, bringing over 30 years of deep experience in AI and cybersecurity. Lalit is a serial entrepreneur and seasoned technology executive. He's successfully founded and exited many companies. He serves on the board of directors on quite a few companies today. He's also very active in community work and serves on Garjay Marathi Global Board. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So, Lalit, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to kick things off with the theme, which is very prominent in your career thus far, which is the playbook for cracking the US market. Going from 0 to 25 million with Sekion, your former company where you were Chief Revenue Officer. Can you walk us through the very first moves that you made at Sekion to get from 0 to the first million in the US market? And what would you repeat and what would you not repeat in that process?
Yeah, great question, Paris. And this is where a lot of working in the trenches helps. I can tell you that getting 0 to first million is probably the most difficult part. And a lot of our energy in the first 2 years went into that, especially when you are a bootstrapped organization and so on. It matters a lot. The good part was we were about 6 or 7 different co-founders, founders, and all of us had 20 plus years of experience. So we were really laser focused on the real problem. We all came together to solve the real time threat detection and response without the need for a massive SOC team. What we saw was time and again, the massive SOC team was a need, and we thought the technology advancement at that time, this is mid 2014, 2015 time, that the market is definitely ripe to create something like that. So we were very laser focused on that. We also did a lot of customer led development, right? What I mean by that is we focused on some of the key references. We used our co-founder and founder connections, 2 to 3 good contacts that we think require this exact problem and can benefit from it. So get them on constant calls and show them even the smallest things that we are developing and get that constant feedback. So a lot of the sale was happening also simultaneously as a part of that, right? Going into it. And that did give us some good initial success, not a lot. I'll talk about some of the pitfalls also with that, but it did give us some good initial success. And focus on the channel partnership was probably the major differentiation on why we could succeed in scaling and growing fast. We did have initially direct sales, SVP of sales, and we let him go within first 6 months because we realized that cybersecurity is not easy to sell through the direct traditional sales cycle. They are very costly, consuming a lot of time, energy, and resources. These network driven interactions where you get a constant feedback and so on are very important. And using those in the similar way in the channel partnerships helped us a lot. We had a lot of connections on various large service providers and others, and one of them helped gain that reference much quickly, right? We did end about a 3 month to 6 month cycle to evaluate with them, but they not only pre-bought licenses for a particular market outside US, they also invested. They wanted to become our partner, and that sort of opened a lot of that door to, hey, the channel partnership is a way to go.
And Lalit, can I ask, who was that top channel partner that you're referring to? If it's not a secret.
Yeah, it was a large service provider from Japan. So that entity was that name. And working in Juniper and Cisco and so on, several of us, I myself had a lot of personal connections there. And that helped tremendously to us. It also helped us gain that confidence that this is the right thing to do and helps a lot. But it was just not that. That was one of the successes. But in the similar way, we had a good success with a large MSP that was trying to become MSSP. And they got in exactly very similar way. They were doing a lot of basic cybersecurity, firewall management, and other network management, and trying to look for something that can give them a lot better end-to-end visibility and things like that in cybersecurity. So they also got in very similarly. And when they saw entity is doing this, they were even ready to jump onto it much quicker, right? And did spend a good amount of resources from their side to get this for them to expand into their almost couple of thousand customers quickly. So that was the biggest success, I would say, to the date, because that got us going on that scale pretty fast. Your other thing was what I would do, what I would repeat and what I won't. I think that focus initially, customer driven focus is very important. I think in all my entrepreneurship also, that's what I keep telling, that your MVP, work with a customer. If the customer is not liking your MVP, your ideas and your product eventually is not, either timing is not right or whatever it is, you got to keep that laser focus on the customer solving their problem. And are they really liking what they are saying? So that is definitely something that we would do. Focus on the channel 100%, right? If you're a very well funded company with success, you always get a lot of investments and so on, then it becomes a different story. But if you're not, if you're a bootstrap, if you're always in that initial critical phase, I would say that becomes very important to scale up. What I wouldn't do, right, is we had engaged with several large Fortune 500 customers, right? And these were from Silicon Valley, from East Coast, from New York, and so on, one large bank as well. And I wouldn't do that in the initial stage. Even though you have some strong connects and so on, it usually is just wasting of a lot of time, a lot of resources, and the effort is endless. Very difficult to generate a success through that unless you have already a budgeted need that you're trying to solve and crystal clear contract that you do this one, two, three things and you're going to get funds or whatever, right? I wouldn't do that. Pricing is another thing. We were a little bit flexible on our pricing. So not having that clarity, it kills. Because if you're flexible, it can delay your closings. Confusing pricing just adds fuel. And the different teams in the customer ranks would say, oh, I heard this from your that team. And I heard this from your that team. Just not good. Crystal clear clarity.
Everybody has their own price. Yeah, that can lead to real chaos.
Yeah, it just derailed. Something that could have happened smoothly just didn't happen. So those are the things that I would avoid as well.
Okay, great. So, given that experience, what would you say are the biggest blind spots that non-US founders bring into the American cybersecurity market? And how would you close those blind spots, address those blind spots?
Yeah, fortunately, both Sekian and Securetech, where I'm currently working, did not have these to some extent. And had all the US led founders, and Securetech had already tried and failed. They did learn through those blind spots quickly. And after that, I had joined. But I have several other Indian companies on which I sit on the board. And I have learned through their experiences. I've learned on getting them to the US market, those experiences and so on. So I'll use a lot of that in talking about these few things. One is trying to run the sales from overseas. I've seen very successful companies outside the US in any particular market. I've seen a lot from India. They try to do the same thing by using overseas sales organizations. Just does not work. It fails miserably.
Doesn't work, huh? You need to have the sales on the ground close to the customer, don't you?
Not only sales, you need pre-sales, you need marketing, you need sales, you need some delivery phase, support phase. It's a very tight-knit. This culture and responsiveness and your presence here matters a lot. If they have to be on the phone, and just imagine how we feel when we are on a customer support call and somebody from Philippines or somewhere else is taking the call. Many times don't even understand a lot of the things and it's just not fun. So that's definitely a no-no. A lot of the founders also think that what worked in that market is a cookie cutter approach. Just apply, this is what worked. It does not work like that. The cultural differences makes it harder. And I can give you one example, right? In India, for example, it's a top heavy, right? You go after the CIO and CISO or the board or CEO or some good strong member in the leadership. The sale is fortunately very quick and fast and can happen. Doesn't work in the US, right? The CIO and CISO could be close and like everything. And one security expert says, "Hey, I've seen this other tool do a lot more than what you are doing, and your ROI is just not there." So the broader relationship and showing the right things and a little bit being patient and slow relationship building is very important in US culture, right? And that matters a lot. Many non-US founders, they just don't get that point and they might be a little bit impatient on that to quickly jump the gun. Also the storytelling, right? The US loves storytelling. It's also the other way around that US market loves storytelling. We like to hear what happened in particular customers and not necessarily any confidential information, but what happened in certain scenarios and how your tool solved that. And if you can demo that and so on, very good. That storytelling
Yeah.
and positioning matters in the US buyers market.
Stories are very memorable, I think, and they're easy to it's easy for someone to imagine themselves as the hero of a story that you tell about another customer.
And on the other hand, some of the markets may feel a little bit different. Japan, for example, I don't think the storytelling works there as much. Right? It's just my
Yeah.
opinion. That's what I would say. Having a good local partners. So it's the other way also, right? What works here, but that may not work the other way. Also, some of the is this is particularly true about Indian founders is over engineering versus validating the solution for a particular problem, right? It's just, oh, we do one, two, three, four, five, six, 10 things, right? And overburdening all that information onto the team while they ask, can you show me just how do you do this one thing? So that getting that difference is very important here in the US market.
Yeah, I think, yeah, selling to US buyers, a lot of times it helps to dumb things down, to make the complex things sound simple and appear simple.
And especially the security buyers, right? I think cybersecurity
Mhm.
is such a complex topic, and in US, if you're mid-market focused, there's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of low knowledge, right? And many a times that's what becomes your enemy, right? Because the marketing anybody can do, right? It's as good as CrowdStrike does that marketing. A new company does the exact same marketing, but of course, CrowdStrike spends a lot of ton of money, right? And that could be a different brand, right? If you're up against that, but the marketing is easy, but showing exactly what the customer is asking about is very important, staying focused on that
Mhm.
versus just showing that, hey, instead of just this one thing, we do 10 other things. Look at this. How good we
Yeah.
are. Doesn't work.
That's a classic dilemma of trying to sell the product on the basis of all the things that it can do, instead of on the basis of the one main problem that the customer has that it can solve.
You got it. Yeah. That's I think definitely Achilles heel. And that's why I'm always there and I see if the pre-sales guys are from US, they have been there, they have done that, they know many a times, right? And they guide the discussion correctly. Is this exactly what you want to what was your question? Did I answer it correctly? They repeat that many a times with the customer and make sure the customer says yes until they move forward, right? Before even they show the B after that A, have you understood the A, right? Is that, did I answer your A correctly? Very
Yeah,
important.
very important before you move on. Lala, let's keep it moving here because I want to move into another theme which comes up a lot now, of course. It can't be ignored, and that's AI and the double-edged sword of AI, because on the one hand, AI is a tool that when put into the wrong hands of bad actors can now inflict all sorts of new types of pain and problems and chaos for companies in cybersecurity. So that has made it a lot harder to defend against. On the other side of the coin, AI for the good guys like you and me who are trying to do great things, grow companies, and be more productive. It's an amazing tool. It's amazingly empowering. And I'd like to explore this a little bit, this double-edged sword of AI and cybersecurity, because you were baking in AI into security stacks long before generative AI came on the scene a few years ago. So I'd like to know, what did you, similar to my previous question, what did you get right about AI? What did you get wrong about AI? And what do you think is the AI's trajectory now that the industry is just waking up to?
Yeah, great question. And we lived and breathed I almost for 1.5 decade. Trust me, right? When I was back in Juniper, that's when a lot of this initial automation, we used to call it automation and machine learning and data science techniques and so on. AI is old, it is few decades old. And Juniper was very hot on automation. And I was the automation champion, product management, sales, services, delivery, you name it, right? Everywhere. And because I was a champion, I was constantly interacting with customers and so on. And security front, I knew that AI is the only scalable way to solve this modern threat problem, because my that 1 year research told me that all these large Fortune 500 enterprises, they are mired with so many security tools and large SOC teams. And their major problem is they still not, they still don't know whether they are ahead of the security game or behind, based on the adversary, based on the industry, based on where they should be, based on their own resources, right? And their own growth path, based on their own business ambition, and so on. And the AI, for us, that was the rescue at that time, right? 2014, 2015. We realized that the scale, the speed, and the complexity and sophistication of various threats can be addressed only by using a lot of these techniques. And if you have to unify the data plane, because what we decided as founders was, hey, we need to take identity, network, devices, applications, cloud. It was humongous problem at hand, and AI was to the rescue, right? It could take a lot of these large things, and using a microservices architecture and several machine learning and other techniques could help us build that context and correlation of various things to tell us that needle in the haystack. And we loved that was our differentiation at that time. But at the same time, I was in the business side, sales side. I was also very cautious because what I quickly see, initially, a lot of the analysts who looked at us, they told us that, wow, this is like a sock in a box. And we loved that term, sock in a box. We said, hey, let's put that
That's
marketing
nice.
gimmick around it, sock in a box. And it backfired badly.
Really?
Yeah, because it was offensive. It was offensive to the sock. Sock in a box meant you are getting rid of those SOC engineers and you have
Mhm.
created a platform that's SOC in a box. It was not good. And we got rid of that term pretty fast.
Yeah,
Out of the door. No way. What we learned is AI is it's like a co-pilot, right? It's an ally to the SOC. It's not a silver bullet. It helps the SOC. So one of these partners that I talked to you about, that large MSB with thousands of customers, they used that, their CTO, right? He used the term, hey, your platform makes my NOC engineers SOC engineers and makes my SOC engineers super SOC engineers. And it gave that rise to the SOC efficiency and creating that term, hey, how much SOC can be efficient using our platform. And we did the analysis. We even 2019 partner summit, we presented that. We asked that CTO to come over and present his analysis, and that was amazing. People, all our other
yeah.
200 odd partners loved it. So that is probably so. The dual-edged sword, though, right? I just quickly want to touch on that. AI is very common now. Last 3-4 years, AI has gotten huge wings, right? Everybody wants to use AI and so on. But I would say that the readiness, right, of the market at that time in 2016, 2017, we had overestimated. We thought, oh, this should sell like a hot cake. Didn't sell like a hot cake at all. Also, not did not invest enough in training, explaining into that strategic delivery and support training model, right? That's where we failed miserably. AI requires that, right? If you're building a AI based platforms for whatever, having that proper training to the key end customers is very important, and positioning that, messaging that correctly is very important. And this is not just marketing, but this is even your delivery and support needs to sing the same tune, give the same message time and again. So better automation, better outcomes, but you got to work in close relations with the human. If you have a HR tool creating that, don't say that HR in a box. Say that this will make your HR teams a lot more efficient. The same HR person, if they are handling 100 employees, now can handle thousands and 10,000s using the AI tools, right? That's the name of the game. That's how I would say that efficiency is the name of the game. And same thing, nowadays, software engineers are no more getting jobs and things like that. But I think it's more like a software integrators, right, with the AI that are designers, product management, the envisioners of how this product should come to the life and be used. Those would be in demand. So that's the dual-edged sword with the AI, right? It cuts
Yeah.
both ways. There's also how our adversaries could use that, and I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, adversaries and the bad actors, of course, they have the same large language models that the defenders also rely on. So then what becomes the next competitive defense edge when everyone has the same tools?
Classic problem, right? That what we were talking about in 2016 and 2017 was, hey, if you don't use it, your adversaries are going to use it and they're going to stay ahead. But it was not gelling that time, but it is gelling very well right now, right? Because everybody
Mhm.
knows how easy it is to use AI. And yes, our adversaries must be using it. And the key thing to understand over there is AI works on the data, right? The garbage in, garbage out. Even for the large language models, you have to do some fine tuning based on your specific data. And who owns that data? You own that data, customer, Mr. Customer. Your attackers don't own that data unless you get breached, right? Until then, you
Mhm.
own that data. You have that proprietary thing that you should use to the fullest extent to stay ahead of the game, right? So, access to that telemetry of all that data is available only to you. And data protection, data privacy becomes a lot more critical in this AI age. And I would say that, yeah, that is giving rise to a lot of new fears and so on. The other thing is how we use AI also matters, right? A very sophisticated way of using AI is important, right? So that human AI interaction is very important. There are certain AI tools that can act as an accelerator, can act as a various ease of things and so on. You also want to always see whether those are keeping your data safe or not. Because if they use your data in a haphazard way and the adversaries are going to get a hang of the same data, you're losing the battle pretty fast, pretty quickly. It has also made sure that the traditional defenses are no longer in play. The static defenses, I mean, right? You have all these check boxes. Oh, yeah, we have this and we have everything in the play. And that's it. We don't need any more, no longer. It's a dynamic world. It's making sure that you understand your posture is changing constantly. Every use of open resources or new endpoints or new additions, new employees, or any business growth, right, comes with this dynamism that you got to be constantly evaluating, constantly staying ahead, rather than just having that perception that, oh, yeah, we have all the defenses in place. So the layered approach, I would say, is absolutely must: defense in depth, defense in breadth. That is our NIST, cybersecurity framework, and it has been updated 2.0 a year back. So that's all important. But understanding the dynamic nature of the things in handling the cybersecurity is very important as well. And that's what I would
Mhm.
say, in order to stay ahead of the adversaries, this is required. I would also
Yeah.
add one more thing, which is intelligence sharing, right? At Sequretek, we take a lot of pride in having a very strong research organization that constantly stays ahead of the adversary by constantly not only sharing the intelligence but also constantly getting the threat intelligence from various things. We have our own honeypots, hundreds of those, 130 plus of those around the globe, and our researchers are constantly taking that data and so on and providing a lot of the adversary knowledge through these threat advisories to various,
Mhm.
even the customers, all our customer CISOs can get that. Even you can sign up for that free of charge as well in order to stay ahead of the game. And a lot of those are explained in a layman terms. But of course, there is a API around it so that no one threat intelligence agencies can integrate that and so on. So that
Mhm.
knowledge sharing is important to stay ahead of the game because that is the key thing. And in order to simulate something like that, you can just give the AI to your red teaming and see what they can do. If they can break through your defenses, adversary probably can very easily.
Yeah. That actually is a great segue into the third theme that I wanted to talk to you about, which is continuous threat exposure management, the CTEM acronym, CTEM. And now it just seems like the fire hose of new threats has gotten even stronger and more powerful. And these new threats, and they're getting labeled with CVE numbers. There are dozens of them dropping every day. So, continuous threat exposure management, CTEM, is now really a big deal. And it's putting a lot of pressure on teams, as I can imagine. Gartner just formalized this term, CTEM. And I know that you all are already emerging as one of the leaders here. So, why does Secure Tech believe that CTEM as a concept beat periodic risk assessments, and where do organizations usually have the most challenges here?
Perfect, perfect segue. The dynamic nature that I was talking about has given rise to CTEM, and it is in the forefront in Gartner, pretty much formalizing that. And we have been staying ahead of that game, and we already had a CTEM platform, and we loved when Gartner formalized it. We not only have a platform that does this continuous threat exposure management, but we also have a customer in production using it, and
Mhm.
it's available right now to that extent at Securetech, right? So Securetech, we had identified this quite some time back, and we knew that the dynamic nature of this means it's a continuous change, continuous fight, continuous assessment. And we
Mhm.
love CTEM conversation because it is a great way to continuously check in real time where your risk lies, where your business risk
Mhm.
lies. It's a live map of your business risk, and it's a risk surface. Not there's no, it's not a static spreadsheet or static report or something. You can go in a board meeting and show that live, that minute, that second to second. This is where we our risk map is based on our business context and so on. The context of the business matters, right? And CTIM is very important because it's an actionable intelligence, right? It does put the business context and business priorities in mind before, oh, yeah, we have these vulnerabilities, oh, we have that vulnerabilities, we have these applications. It just, you get mired into so many other things, losing the focus that what is the most important thing from our business perspective in staying resilient, staying in continuity perspective. What is the most actionable item for me as a business leader right now? And that is exactly what CTEM does. It puts context
Mhm.
scoring, contextual risk scoring into this AI driven world. And that's our differentiator. At SecureTech, we show you exactly that. The conversation with CTM also changes. Security was always a cost element, right? It's how much it is going to cost for getting me this check boxes in order to do the business versus
Mhm.
how is this going to enable me to not only stay in the business but grow my business. So it is a business outcome driven conversation, and we love that. I love that. So it's not a conversation only with the CISO now anymore, but it's a conversation with CFO, with your entire board team, and so on, right?
Yeah.
It's a business enabler versus not just yet another security tool, and so on. So that's the
It's an interesting aspect too, because board members speak a different language here, and they're saying, "I this is a big cost to ensure that nothing happens." So it's hard to say we're going to spend all this money just so that the outcome is net zero, so that nothing bad happens. But what are the metrics that you can use to speak a board level language that makes them understand why the CTEM funding a CTEM program is a must?
yeah. See, what CTEM program does is it gives you that risk, and it also gives you that across the industries, across the your peers, across various things, what it is happening, and it helps you make that informed decision. Am I ready to take that? And is it okay for me to take that? Because every day we are taking the risk. While walking on the road, we are taking the risk. Traveling in the plane, we are taking the risk, and we are taking it knowingly that there is a point whatever 0.00001% chance, right? And it's okay to take that in a normalized world. That's exactly what CTEM does. So you don't have to go
Mhm.
on spending tool and closing each and every gap and so on. It's a known risk that is put in front of it with the business impact, business outcome, what it could do, and so on. Is this really exploitable? Is this really going to impact me? How big is its blast radius? You want to know all that
Yeah.
before you even spend that first dollar. And CTEM does that, right? CTEM is, I would say, the best platform to spend money on and then decide, do you really need to spend on something else, and so on. And it consolidates a lot of the things into single frame so that you can decide, do I really need to expand onto this EDR based MDR or XDR and so on, or am I okay? My exposure is this much and my business risk is this much, and I feel comfortable with that. So all those things, CTM helps you in scoring, in calculating, in giving that right picture to decide. And of course, again,
Mhm.
the data is the most important thing, right? Because it is fragmented. It is the visibility into various things is not there. So it may not work within a short time, but it would work over a period of time if you constantly keep harping on the CTEM and getting that. Once you get that
Yeah.
right, now it works fine. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So CISOs that are transitioning into running CTEM programs versus traditional vulnerability management stack. How is a typical day in a life for that CISO different now that they're really now running a CTEM program instead of the old way?
Absolutely great question, because the CISOs that have adopted CTM are more business driven, and they find it that they are partners with the CFO, partners with the leadership, partners. There's no fight between CFO and CFO. Oh, you need more funds and things like that. It's a business conversation, right? And it's very good. But I'll give you some examples, right? If you're working with your team, right, the SOC team, you're not dealing with, yeah, how many vulnerabilities and how many alerts and how many incidents and show me the trend and so on. That's the traditional CISO. A CTEM CISO is looking at the live risk score, right? Show me the exposure map, where we were yesterday versus today, right? What are the five new high impact exposures to our crown jewels and things like that. The rest, yeah, there is increase in, it's probably low priority and may not even matter at all in a longer risk. There's no impact to the business whatsoever, right? And things like that.
Mhm.
So the conversation changes completely when you're working with your team, when you are working with, let's say, even the IT, right? Because there's a that CISO and CIO Also, there's our IT head, right? There is also tussle. Traditionally, CISO reports to CIO, so I shouldn't say between CIO and CISO. But nowadays, CISO is parallel position to the CIO and pretty much reports into the board. But the traditional CISO would talk about, hey, there are these vulnerabilities into this application. We got to upgrade that, or this server, we got to upgrade that, or this network gear, we got to upgrade that. The conversation is that, right? In traditional CISO. In CTEM, it is not that. It is a clear prioritized list that this is the business risk and this is what it is. And whatever is the low priority, probably we can live with it forever, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years, who knows, right? Hey, there is this legacy platform. Everybody loves it. They don't want to get off it. And the productivity is high. The happiness is high. Sure, just live with it as long as the exposure is low. If the exposure gets higher, now what do we do? The conversation. So that's the CTM CISO, right? It's a different conversation. It's a heat map versus the vulnerabilities and threats and alerts and why we need to do various things, right?
It sounds to me like the CTEM mindset is more of a real-time mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is the situation? What is the situation right now, and where is it trending today, based on new information that just dropped? Yeah, and to me, that is a reflection of the reality of the world we live in now. That because of AI primarily and other things, that the diversity and complexity of threats is getting so much bigger, and the volume, that fire hose is coming in a lot stronger, and it needs to be treated like every day is a new battle almost. Even though we did great yesterday, today new
And because
threats.
of this reason, exactly, that is all clear. It
Yeah,
could be whatever that change is. And not only we handle that, how do we get better at managing this change? And that's a business conversation, which is very effective.
yeah. Lalit, this has been great. I do need to ask you on the personal side now. You've spent a large part of your career in cybersecurity, and now the industry is in a growth phase that is really exploding like we haven't seen before. What is it that keeps you motivated? What keeps you in this game? What gets you out of bed in the morning to tackle the new challenges of cybersecurity?
Yeah, I'm an innovation guy, right? I always wake up in what else can we solve today. That's what excites me every day. And staying ahead of the game, talking to other innovators and advanced technology guys helps drive that tremendously, right? Also, busting some of the myths and overhyped things is always good, right? Because there's always some misinformation also that keeps going around, and without looking at factual information, keeping those around is very important, especially in the AI age, because deception is very quick with the deep fake and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
understanding the actual facts is very important rather than just going with the flow. And that's what excites me the most. And I think the future is bright. AI has multiplied in many ways, right? What we can do. And it's great.
Yeah. It is a brave new world.
Yeah.
And we're lucky to still have this hit around mid-career, so that I think it makes at least for me, it's gonna make the second half of my career very exciting, and not everybody could say that, and I
Yeah.
think in previous generations. So, Lalit, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate the time that you spent with me. Really eye-opening. Congrats on the success with Sequretek, and, you've got some great insights, and I think you're sharing those also with the other small companies that you're mentoring and then sitting on the
Absolutely.
boards of.
Yeah.
Congrats on the success, and I'm really looking forward to keeping in touch with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Paris, for having me on this show. Truly appreciate you are doing great things. Really enjoyed my time here.
Thanks. My pleasure.